Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. It is the end of the year, and the end of the year means top 10 list. And here is mine. It's extra difficult for me because not only do I read English novels or novels that are translated in English, but also read novels that are written in Dutch or French or German and that aren't translated yet or will maybe never be translated. And that makes it extra hard for me to make a good list that is well balanced and that is, yeah, in a way, it's not 100% the list of best books that I'm now giving to you because, yeah, it's the top 10 list of books that are available in English. It's difficult for me to choose, but hey, here we go. So I made a list. It's on my screen because I'm old. I can't remember stuff. And there are a lot of books that I don't own that I got from the library. And yeah, that's life. I will buy them later when they are secondhand because I mostly buy my books secondhand. I don't do a top 10 in the sense of this is the best book and then a countdown or the other way around. It's in, there is no order to it. The first book I want to mention is Solenoid, of course, by Mircea Cărtărescu. He is a Romanian author. This book was written some 10 years ago and is now translated into Dutch and English. And yeah, it was, for me, it was a whirlwind to read. It took me by surprise. It's a big book, but it is full of beautiful sentences. It is engrossing, it is gross, it is beautiful, it is provocative, it is thought-provoking, it is wonderful. This book is perfection for me. It's absolute brilliant. But anyway, Solenoid. Solenoid is about a guy who is an author, a failed author, and he lives in a boat-shaped house in Romania. He's a second grade teacher, I believe, and in the basement of his house there's a solenoid and it removes all the walls in Romania. It's very absurd also. It's very, yeah, it's like Dali would have written this book. It is a masterpiece to read. It is really well done. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole, what is it, 900,000 pages. So yeah, it is really good and it's really worth your time. The next book is The Opposite of a Person by Lieke Marsman. Lieke Marsman is a wonderful Dutch author, and The Opposite of a Person is a brilliant book. Why? Because she plays with many different genres, but she does it with so much intelligence and fun, and it's funny at times, but it's also shocking at times. It's thought-provoking. It helps you to, in a way, it's an essay sometimes about global warming and stuff, but also it has a plot, and it's a lot more than you think. And you start reading this and you are sucked into this little book, but it's amazing. It is a wild ride on a wild river. This story is about a young woman. She's a biologist or something of the sort, and she is asked to go to the north of Italy to study the effects a dam has on the environment. And she has to study this, and then afterwards they will demolish the dam, and she has to study the after effects when the dam is gone. But there's a whole lot more going on in this book, in this short book. I think it's only 150 pages or so. It's brilliantly written, it's funny, you will love it. Then another book that I really enjoyed, and it just crept in because I finished it yesterday. It is Obvious Builds a Girl by Heather Parry. What a book! What a book! What a book! Oh, damn! This is so good! So, this is more or less based on a real story. And there are two narrators in the story. You have a doctor, Willem von Poor, and there's another narrator whose name is Gabriela Maria Herrera Madrigal de Giro. It is a story about a doctor who learned his skills in a concentration camp. So we are off for a nice start. It's horrible. But he is a man, one of those men that, especially doctors, who think they are God. And yeah, he does tests on people in the concentration camps, and then the concentration camp is gone, and then he flees to America, where he takes on the persona of a Polish doctor. He is a well-off man, he is white, he is respected, so his experiences as an immigrant are a whole lot different than the other storyteller, Gabriela. Gabriela is a Cuban woman, and she migrated to Key West together with her family. So the way those two people are perceived is already completely different. Gabriela is the down-to-earth storyteller, and the doctor is the more godlike person. And the story is not about Gabriela or the doctor, it's about Lucia, who is the love of the doctor and the sister of Gabriela. Now, the doctor is convinced that she is the love of her life, and he is asked to treat her because she has tuberculosis. And yeah, there it goes all wrong. It is the fact that there are two points of view makes this story, this gothic thriller, and yeah, this gothic masterpiece, such a thrilling story. Is I have no words for this book. It's the first time that two different points of view work so well for me in a book. It is so well done, so well done. You have the down-to-earth storyteller, Gabriela, who tells it like it is, and then you have the doctor story, who makes himself a whole lot more important than he really is, and he's delusional. And that's what makes this counterbalance so strong. It's like, yeah, opposite polars, but they clash so very well. This is such an interesting and well-written book. It's creepy, it's engrossing, it is, for me, one of the best Gothic novels I've ever read. This is brilliant storytelling. One of the first novels that I've read this year was The Street by Ann Petrie. I already talked about Ann Petrie on my channel a couple of times because it is the first time that I've encountered an author that really knows how to rip my heart apart. This woman is yeah. She's amazing. She is such a brilliant storyteller, and everything is so scenic and so vividly told. But what is she telling? Well, in The Street, she takes us to New York, and there's a young woman, a young black woman, a beautiful woman. And she leaves her husband because her husband is, disappointed in life, and makes her life impossible in a way, because as a woman, a young black woman, she has a little bit more chance to make some money. But she has a young boy, and she takes her young boy to the city, to the street where she lives, and more the street becomes a character in a story. And because she is so beautiful, a lot of men want more from her. They expect more from her because she is beautiful. And they do everything to have a grip on her. And it makes her life more and more difficult, and to the point where she has to make a heartbreaking choice. I was lost for words after this book, and I think often about this book. And although it was written in 1948, 49, something like that, end of the 40s, that's for sure. This story is a must read for everybody, and especially for us white folk who don't really grasp how difficult it is for Black people to survive in a predominant white country. And it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes. Not you can say, well, yeah, read a book about slavery, and yeah, that's true. But this is now. Slavery was the past, and it should have been forgotten, but it's not. It's still very much alive. And that takes me to the other book that I've read, that I also really enjoyed and really profoundly loved, and that's Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. It was the first time that it was translated into Dutch, so I read the Dutch version. This is about a story about a woman somewhere in the 70s, because the book was written in the 70s, and she celebrates her 30th birthday. And by some chance, she is transported back to 1850, somewhere in the South. And when she looks around, she hears a boy crying for help. And she goes towards the cries for help, and she sees a young, red-headed white boy drowning in a river. She jumps into the river, she saves him, she does CPR, which is not known back then. She saves the boy. And then she goes back to 1970. But a little bit later, she is called again to 1850. And again, the same boy is in trouble. His room is on fire. And she has to save him again. But the problem is that she has to stay longer and longer and longer in 1850. And of course, being a Black woman, she is not free because she doesn't have the papers to show that she is free, so she has to live as an enslaved woman. And the realization how it is between an enslaved woman and a free Black woman in 1970s, and oh yeah, it's a wonderful book. It is, of course, but it's science fiction, it's magical realism, it's not real, it's not something that can happen. But is it really? Is it really? Then another book, a Gothic novel, that I really enjoyed. I also read it at the beginning of this year, and it's by Julia Armfield, Our Wives Under the Sea. I've talked about this book several times, so I'll keep it short. People know it by now. So it's about a young married couple, two women, and one is a marine biologist, again a biologist, and the other one is, I don't know what she was, but it doesn't matter. The marine biologist has to go on an expedition in a a dive boat, and she is supposed to be under this at the bottom of the ocean for at least 6 weeks. And we have two narrators also in this story. So one is the woman that is left behind, the wife that is left behind, and then we hear the story, we read the story of the biologist. But after 6 weeks, she doesn't come back. The submarine is missing. Only after 6 months, the submarine submerges. And of emerge or submerge, I don't know. You'll get what I mean. And yeah, of course, they are happy to see each other, but the marine biologist has changed enormously. There's some really weird things about her. And actually, this book is more about relationships and the fact that some people change during the relationship. Sometimes one of the two goes through a traumatic event, and that changes the dynamics of the relationship. And that's what this story is about. Brilliantly written, also very gothic. I don't know what it's with these women this year, but oh boy, do they know how to write gothic stories. A book that is also not written in 2022, but a little bit older, maybe from 2018 or so, I don't know, I'm not sure, is Cantoras by Carolina De Robertis, or Carolina De Robertis. De Robertis, I prefer to say Carolina. I hope she doesn't mind. Now, anyway, Cantoras is set in Venezuela, I believe. I can be mistaken, but it's in a South American country that lived under a regime. So this is a book that starts end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s and goes up to 2000, more or less. And it's about a group of women, friends. Some are lovers. And it's about how they deal with the regime and the oppression of the regime, and how difficult it is to meet each other. And some women are married and they live normal lives, but they still want to meet their friends, and they come together always once a year in a little bay, and yeah, there they celebrate their friendship and their profound friendship, and they talk about their experiences as being a woman in a very oppressive regime, and it is beautiful. It is a love song to female friendship. This book will never leave you. It is so well done. The prose is so beautiful. The characters are so well drawn. It was one of the highlights of my very intense year. Another book that is translated from the French, and that is Devils and Saints by Jean-Baptiste Andrea. This is also a very recent read. I read it last week, and it also made a beautiful impression on me. So I will keep this short because I have talked about this book in one of my previous videos. Devils and Saints it starts with an older man in his 60s, and he plays on one of those free pianos you have in train stations, airports, and other public places. And he plays so beautifully, so well. He is an exceptional talent. And often people come to him, people with knowledge, say, wow, with your talent, you could be a concert pianist. I can organize, I can help you to get into the opera or wherever. And he says, no. And then finally somebody asks him, why are you playing here? And he says, I'm waiting. And then we go back to his story and his early story. And we are back in 1969 during the Apollo 13 mission. And he's a young boy, then 11, I think. And he gets the word that his parents and his sister died in a plane crash. And he's all alone. He has means, but he can only get to those when he's 21. Yeah, he is very well off. But the government, he has no family, so the government takes him to an orphanage somewhere close to the Spanish border in the Pyrenees. And his life there is close to horrible. A lot of abuse, mostly physical abuse in the sense of beatings and and mental psychological abuse. And it is a very, very heartbreaking story, but beautiful, beautiful. So well done, and it's very well translated. So yeah, Devils and Saints. Then another book that I really enjoyed reading. It is not a book that will break your heart, but it is a book that is full of heart for literature. And that's Checkout 19 by Louise Bennett. I read this in an excellent translation in Dutch. And I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this book. So this is about a young girl who is from a working class family. And she loves literature. And she wants to become a writer. Checkout 19 refers to cash register where she works in a supermarket and where she meets a man with whom she can talk about literature. The whole book is a love song for literature. It's not a novel in the sense that it's more, a love song for literature. I don't have another word for it. I loved it. I really loved it. It's a love song to writing, to the pain while you write. The admiration for authors and their work and why she loves them. And so beautiful. Then another book that I thoroughly enjoyed at the beginning of this year was The Employees by Olga Raven. Olga Raven is, I believe, a Danish author, if I'm mistaken, or at least a Scandinavian. That's easier. And she was asked by an artist to write a story that would go well with her exposition. And that's what this book is, actually. So it wasn't actually meant to be published as a novel, but it is. So what is it about? Well, it's about you read a logbook of a spaceship, a shuttle named 4000 or something, doesn't matter. And you read the different entries. So there are humans on the spaceship, there are humanoids on the spaceship, and there are creatures that they have to observe. And it's more about the clash between humans and humanoids. So the humanoids were developed with as the best possible human. But humans see themselves better as they really are. We think we don't lie. We say we don't lie. We say we are righteous. We think that we are, that we have a good heart, that we are very straightforward, that we say what we mean. But we don't, because we are human. And that's the clash between the humanoids and the humans. And that's what makes this book so wonderful. If you read it with that in mind, the clash between humans and humanoids, the clash between our real self and our perfect self. Really interesting. And then the 11th book, because I have ADHD and I really can't count, is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. Sorry, I have to check. Our Share of Night is also a Gothic novel. I didn't know I liked the genre. I didn't know. But it's beautiful. It is a great, great, great horror novel. So this is set in a fake South American country, but we all know it's Argentina. And there's a young man, a man who is a bit sickly, and he has a son, and his wife was murdered. And he wants to save his son from his in-laws. And you don't know why, and a lot of weird things happen, and his in-laws are the leaders of a cult, a very dark cult. And throughout the book, she takes you through a trip to save that young boy, and a lot of gruesome things happen. But actually, this book is a way of telling the story of the people who have endured the regime in Argentina during the 70s and 80s. And a lot of people went missing. You had the mothers who were grieving for their sons on that square. I just forgot the name. This is such a powerful book. You can read it as Gothic horror, but actually it is political horror. It is a powerful, powerful, powerful book. It's about 800 pages, I believe, or 600, something like that. It's a big, big book. But it's so good, so good. Our Share of Night. Woo. Have a nice year. Bye-bye.